Beautiful. All right. Well, so we're not just gonna chat, to open?
No, I thought
have an intro?
For once we would have I've been listening to Secretly Incredibly Fascinating, Sif Pod by our friend Schmitty the Clam. And he has like a real intro and everything. It's pre-planned. Now we've ruined it because you're obviously going to include this part as editor. But yes,
I am.
So planned.
Yes, I am.
Can you
script?
So we'll get the plan and the crisp intro. So Abe, can you introduce the show with our usual tagline? Introduce yourself and then toss to me. This is gonna be so good.
Welcome to Frame Rate, where we rate frames. I'm Abe Epperson, one of your co-hosts, and I'd love to introduce my other co-host. Introduce yourself.
I'm that co-host, Michael Swaim, and you guys, welcome to... What did we say?
Maggie Mae's.
Maggie Mae's Monkey Movie Madness Month here on Small Beans. Now, this is a special spotlight / partnership with our show, another show on our network. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. And so we decided to have Maggie on and show one another monkey movies. Hi Maggie, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, guys. Yeah, truly the only connection these two movies have is that they both prominently feature a monkey of some kind.
So buckle up. This episode and next episode this month are Maggie Mae's Monkey Movie Madness Month.
They're both coming out in May.
Monkey Mae Madness Month, yeah.
Maggie Mae, Monkey Mae.
Oh, God. Do we have to do this again next year?
Yeah, until we die.
Maybe.
Great. Well, so I thought it would also be fun to decide this live. We don't know yet. Maggie, call it. Which one should we cover first?
You know what? I think if we were to go to a drive-through as three best friends and view these movies as like some sort of double feature, I feel like they would probably show Monkeybone first, right? And then finish off.
Monkeybone it is.
Monkeybone.
I've been ready. I've been preparing my whole life to discuss Monkeybone, so I'm ready. No gear shift required.
I know.
Maggie, we generally start the conversation off by asking our guest, had you seen Monkeybone before? If so, how many times? What was your experience like this time? Why'd you pick Monkeybone when we sent you our list of movies you could pick?
Oh boy, such great questions. I first watched Monkeybone about probably a year ago now. And the first time I watched it, just complete fever dream. I don't think I remembered any details. I just had like a vague remembering of the plot. Chris Kattan, I remember his character. So the first time is pretty trippy. And it's directed by the guy who directed Nightmare Before Christmas. So that was that was my in. But yeah, so this time when I was watching it, I was able to appreciate the oddly like complicated plot, which I didn't really appreciate the first time that I watched it. Yeah, it's just very weird. A lot of different characters, a lot of references to other movies, and it's based off a comic book. Like a graphic novel, which I also wasn't aware of.
Darktown.
Yeah.
Sounds exactly like Cool World, which this kind of also feels like.
Yeah, so I mean, this time it's still, I think, just like a smorgasbord of like really strange and ideas. Yeah.
I'm going to push you a little because I haven't heard you mention a monkey yet.
I haven't, yes. So
bring in the monkey of it all.
The titular monkey of Monkeybone. So the character itself, it's interesting because the character Monkeybone is not at all funny. Like, it's mostly, he's into a bunch of women in the movie, but also I don't think that we're supposed to like Monkeybone. So he's the main character, yet also Brendan Fraser's enemy, who's also part of himself because it's his creation.
He's a Looney Tune like sex pest, like Pepe Le Pew. And it's weird because it's hard to tell which eyes are we supposed to view it from the old eyes that we could be privileged to have at a certain time of like, oh, it's just Pepe Le Pew, it's just Speedy Gonzalez, it's all in good fun, he's likable because he's zany? Or are we supposed to be like, this guy's a fucking sex pest, he's genuinely annoying? Is it The Thing, or is it a deconstruction of The Thing? And I think that is going to be a recurring theme about Monkeybone. I don't mean to orchestrate this whole thing, but I feel like it's a great time to talk about the background of the making of the movie. Do you want to do that, Abe? Because it's usually your purview. Or should I? Do you know what I'm referring to? The 3-picture deal and all that?
No, you go ahead and talk about that part. I can talk about like the go motion and stuff and like the techniques.
Oh, please do. I just thought, I think because a king's a king, that's usually you take that beat. But I just know this beat because my dad really cared, just like me. Hey, genetics works, people. About weird movies. Like, for some reason, I grew up thinking this was an important film, and I know some of the history of the making of and stuff. And it's because my dad has, among other things, such a like respect for stop motion animation, and he gave me my love of like originality and weird content, and combination art and live action is always fun. So the story behind this is Henry Selick made a 3-picture deal, and the story goes that I was taught, maybe apocryphal, I didn't check it, but it makes the conversation about Monkeybone really interesting. He got a 3-picture deal. 2 were very strictly controlled by the studio, and they were James and the Giant Peach and The Nightmare Before Christmas. And the deal was that the 3rd movie, he got to do whatever he wanted, a pet project, and it was Monkeybone. And then Monkeybone happened and came out, and it really hurt his career. And it took a long time for him to bounce back. And I think Coraline was probably what people consider his big, he's back, Henry Selick's doing his thing, and like, we like it again. I personally really like Monkeybone because it also is, the art itself is based on the art of Mark Ryden, who's one of my favorite surrealists, who has a very unique style. You see one of his untouched paintings in the nightmare sequence where they're like doing operating on the yam. But I would argue that this movie is just like the perfect example of the studio trying to bring wild artistic craziness in line and like compromise it with what'll play in the sticks, and fucking up the movie. Like, they monkeyed with the movie and it boned it. And I wasn't just trying to get at that pun. I'm also trying to say that the movie is about an artist whose greatest fear comes to life when his art is commercialized and dumbed down and he finds it not as good anymore. And I know Henry Selick didn't know his movie was going to get hamstrung by the studios. So it's just like this amazing artifact of a movie where I think you can look at the elements and see so much potential. This movie could have been a banger. I still find it enjoyable, but it is definitely compromised in a very studio-y way. And I think that is so perfect because that's also what the movie's about. I'm done. Monkeybone.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful. And it is so funny because that is like the central theme of it. And like, I actually really like it too. And I, at least from, with my wizened 2020 eyes, it's easy to see Monkeybone as kind of like a symbol of, creativity being taken away from the creator and given to, committee. Then you end up with a sexist, racist monkey who takes over the movie. Yeah. And
if I
got
may,
a different message from the movie.
Here's a quote from Rose McGowan on the topic. This movie would have been incredible if the men at 20th Century Fox hadn't fired the director, a true artist, Henry Selick, halfway through the filming, a profoundly stupid move. The set design, costumes, prosthetic, actors are all at master level, at least in the underworld part of the film of which I was a part. What Fox Studios turned this film into because of their fear and lack of artistic thinking was a travesty. And I think Monkeybone's one of the great missed opportunities for a truly great movie.
Yeah.
Abe? Monkeybone. Thoughts?
Monkeybone.
I thought that the message of the movie is that there's truly a monkey bone in each of us.
Oh.
Well, and Monkeybone represents your horniness that gets you in trouble, right? That's what I got from it.
It must be curtailed, but it unites us. I actually think we are all Monkeybone, and Monkeybone is Brendan Fraser's dick, right?
Mhm.
Like that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
origin story is his erection, right?
Yeah, it's very Ren and Stimpy-ish. They show us a Monkeybone cartoon, which is like, it felt like when Aaron Sorkin tries to write stand-up or a sketch, it was like, it's not that good as a cartoon if it was a stand-up. You're like, why is this famous? Why? It's like when you see a Simpsons where Itchy and Scratchy wins an Academy Award, and you're like, I guess.
Yeah. And I think Brendan Fraser is unstoppable in this role.
Unstoppable. Peak Brendan
Performance
Fraser.
is Monkeybone when he becomes Monkeybone, like possessed by him, like from like the hip gyrations and the bedroom scene, hopping on the fireplace mantle when he's scared of his dog come to mind. But generally his deployed like eeks and oohs in reaction to things around him is like, for lack of a better like, it's classically trained. Like the man knows how to act like a monkey. And I know that Maggie's got my back here when we talk about Brendan Fraser.
In fact, she's picking lice off of it. Monkey Month.
Perhaps greatest actor ever.
Yeah.
I think this is a movie where he shines, where you see like, fuck, we really missed out on some good decades with him where he should have been making movies.
Yeah, his ability to balance like being like a kind leading man, like you really root for him to, you know, be with his girlfriend, and like, you know, he just is able to do that so well, and then also, yeah, like, you know, play a disgusting monkey, and you know, the binary of Brendan Fraser. This is one of the rare movies that's able to capitalize on that, really.
Yeah, that range he has of doing both likable leading rom-com guy and George of the Jungle. Like the movie has both shades of Brendan. The only thing it doesn't have is action hero Brendan Fraser, which I know Abe wants the most. But while we're on cast, Dave Foley, who is like my spirit animal comedian, doing a good job. He's always good.
John Turturro is Monkeybone.
And can we mention that Monkeybone's voice is fucking John Turturro?
I know.
Jesus.
And you don't notice it because they pitch it up, but it's once you have that unlock, you know, like that 5-brain unlock, it becomes a better movie.
Megan Mullally killing it as always. And then this is the first collaboration between Giancarlo Esposito and Bob Odenkirk.
Yes.
Which
that's true.
Means that unless they became best friends and hung out in between, when they met at the Breaking Bad rehearsal, they were like, this is
Monkeybone.
very different than Monkeybone.
Although they're not on screen with each other.
No, that's true.
I think the best bit in the entire movie is Bob Odenkirk and his team of surgeons going as far to the ends of the earth to get their dead body back is one of the greatest. Like they are so involved in it.
It really feels like a
such a
Smigel
good bit.
sketch. Yeah. Can
really
some lines from that scene? Those are our organs. Get back on that slab. Someone stop that dead man. We're doctors. We don't want to hurt you. We just want your organs. Stop running. No, then you'll be sued. Damn you, dead man. Damn you.
It's so good.
Whoopi Goldberg is in this as Death.
As Death itself. Thomas Hayden Church.
Why
is this movie not super famous? It's crazy.
And he also is hilarious in this, by the way. It's like a perfect like deploying of Thomas Hayden Church because he's like such a like lovable dummy. Like I think it's like there's even aspects of like when his character, critically acclaimed character in Sideways, like there's a little like he's honing his chops in this movie because he's just is kind of pathetic and it's kind of cute in a way. Who else we got? We can't forget Bridget Fonda. Who plays Steve's love interest, Dr. Julie McElroy.
Chris Kattan.
I wanted to ask Maggie because I was thinking of doing this to Jen. She's not a doctor, but I don't care. Isn't calling your girlfriend Doc cute as shit? Is that like super endearing, or am I wrong?
No, I think it's great. Doc
and it brings up like Bugs Bunny vibes. I think I'm gonna call Jen Doc and see if she just goes, "Wait, what the fuck did you call me?"
It's gender
What's up,
neutral,
Doc?
so anyone out there with gender neutral partners, call them Doc.
Mhm.
See how they respond.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. All right, we need a jump start. I mean, I got tons of notes, but I don't know where to go next. That's a natural segue.
Where do we go with this one?
Man.
To quote
The
this
one thing
movie, if later got here
talk about.
sooner, it would be a lot better.
So Monkeybone was a failure at the box office.
Yeah.
It had a budget of $75 million, which is quite a bit in this day and age in 2001. And it grossed about over 5 million domestically, 7 to 8 million worldwide. Huge flop. It doesn't have a cult following like many that will argue that, came back, and movies of this, like, I guess, caliber that often are found, like, for example, this is made by Orion Studios as well, I think. Oh wait, no, this isn't Orion. That's the other one. But like we talked about UHF last time.
This is 20th Century
Maggie
Fox.
was on. Yeah, 20th Century Fox. We talked about UHF, which UHF also bombed. But it also at the time became, like, immediately when it went to DVD and VHS, it started to garner more of a cult following. That's not so true about Monkeybone. So that's one thing. And most of the critics that panned it were just talking about how they didn't understand the shape of the movie. It's like it just seems to be going for the jokes. Everything is meandering. It does what it wants, which is, these are things that we usually will say about originality that we like. And so it's interesting to me when I look at, another film, like you mentioned, Cool World. We should talk about Beetlejuice. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, also because of the mixed media. These are all films that were either immediately known as like, oh, this is good, or kind of developed a cult following. I think it's interesting that Monkeybone hasn't kind of had a day where, like on Twitter, everyone goes like, can you guys remember Monkeybone?
No, people like it, but very, very small pool.
It's like
There's a few
so small that I wouldn't call it cult.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of reviews and cast, the person we forgot, the Amazon reviews page would be very mad with us because I checked out the Amazon reviews on this because I saw Abe tweet that they were hilarious. And the only thing people liked, it seemed, was Chris Kattan, who does prove, just like he did on SNL, that whether, like, you can argue whether Mango is a brilliantly written sketch or idea for character or whatever, Chris Kattan was never a writer as much as he just was like, give me the part, I'll do the thing funny. He's a master at it. Like, his physical between Mango and this, and like, he's he's like Jim Carrey level physical comedian. He's so good.
Oh, no doubt about it. I think it's more of a statement about where comedy was at the time. Where it's like, that was familiar, I guess,
Yeah, but people are on Amazon like, Chris Kattan was good, though.
Yeah.
Chris Kattan
although I also found the meanest trivia I've ever found, which was Goof's character error. Chris Kattan is in very poor shape for a gymnast.
Oh, no!
This is the official IMDb trivia page. Why?
Jesus.
Kind of
So
a
mean.
joke.
Yeah. Well, it also
The man
adds
broke his neck doing a sketch for you. Yeah.
I was gonna say, especially with the physical humor with Chris Kattan, like knowing what he went through on SNL, and then just seeing him give this performance, there's a very dark layer underneath it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is there's no question to me that this was actually Henry Selick's, and you can see it if you squint and like connect the dots, statement on art and its relationship to commercialism that he was living through. And there's so many cool references to that, like Chris Kattan being willing to come back in his first role since he broke his neck and play a corpse with a broken neck. That's like dark, dude. And get
and
this,
ballsy.
There was an alternate ending. The Henry Selick's original ending was like Brazil. It ends with Stu failing, Doc falling in love with Monkeybone, Monkeybone taking over the cartooning world and like running Monkeybone Cartoon Network. The end. Which is like, you can see clearly where his head was at. And then the movie was like, cut this with 50% Love Conquers All print,
Yep. Yep,
Yeah.
that's the way. That is the way.
It's the way of the monkey bone.
The way of the monkey bone.
You've been Monkeybone. If you have a creative project that's been, torpedoed by other people's opinions, you've been Monkeyboned.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. We should get that to catch on. But as
Yeah.
we mentioned, very few people remember the movie.
True.
And yeah, he literally gets killed by a giant plush doll of the thing he created.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so perfect to me.
That's perfection to my
And Abe, you mentioned Burton. He did the same thing in the Dumbo he did. He has a cameo in that where he's in the background shoveling shit. And it's like, get it? Disney makes me shovel shit. And it's like, then don't make the movie. I find that move less defensible.
Right.
That is true. Yeah.
Little...
At least with this, I feel, Selleck was, trying to say something with the, his artistic predicament. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a little different to be like, all right, we'll let you have one, but you have to make these two kind of thing. I mean, it's all biting the hand that feeds. So there's always going to be a little bit of, I guess, controversy that comes along with, going after your masters, rewatching Futurama for no reason at all recently. And they love to dunk on their previous masters and, like the whatever network that they're on at the time, and it's fun. It's also like, you're kind of showing your ass there a little bit. Like, it's not like we're going to be like, see, they're really hardcore because they don't give a fuck. Well, of course they give a fuck.
Right.
20th Century Fox signed off on all of this.
See, I think that's the trick that Simpsons pulled, because capitalism is the one school of thought that can subsume all criticisms into itself. So, like,
right.
Yeah.
Like, Simpsons went from seeming edgy because they were bagging on Fox to having Rupert Murdoch come on and make jokes as a guest voice. And you're like, well, now you're actually providing a service to the masters because you're allowing them to seem like, oh, I'm grounded. I have a sense of humor. I poke fun at myself, which is actually bullshit. Like,
right. I mean,
I
that's
don't know that like Simpsons is not real edgy. It's subsumed edgy.
Yeah, exactly. It's mainstream, man. Like if you really were gonna have a statement, it would be a lot more real and less forgiving. They're not gonna go there because they still gotta, what are we going to do? Not be a part of the capitalist system we'd had no social contract
and
that
the
we
thing
signed about?
I will say on the other side of the coin is like, dude, you got to craft like the visuals of Nightmare Before Christmas. That's a dream job. Or if you're into making models and animating shit, if that's your bag, like that movie rules. No knock against Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, this is not trying to be a manifesto in my mind, or what I'm saying is not trying to say like, well, then, because there's someone in the audience who's probably going like, so you just don't want Nightmare Before? Is that fucking real?
Oh, you're just shitting all over the giant
There's many
peach.
gifts that this broken system gives us. Like we have roads. There's many things that I love about society and capitalism too, but like at the same time, if you're going to make that statement, let's not act like it's like for real. Let's not act like you're keeping it real. But it should be looked at exactly as it should be, which is, like it's just commentary. It's just saying like this is true.
Right. But your point that Henry Selick is not actually an outsider, rogue, rebel indie filmmaker is well taken. He's not. He was just getting his little jab in.
He's lived on that image his entire life, more or less, and that's cool. That's cool.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. I actually think if it was more biting, that might have helped it have like some sort of resurgence. But I think because at the end of the day, Monkeybone is such a huge part of it, and he's so unfunny that like having like a renewed love for this movie, it's a lot harder to do than if it was I think a lot more of that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that both you guys were like, I don't know, are we supposed to like Monkeybone or not? Monkeybone is clearly the villain to me. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't like villains.
Especially knowing that it was going to end with Monkeybone taking over the world, and that's the tragic ending. Obviously, he's the bad guy.
I don't think it's a dissection of like what like the protagonist antagonist relationship, because they start off with a very tried and true formula of like the betrayer, like he seems on our side until like the midpoint, and then it completely switches, and that's like very run of the mill in my opinion. It's like, you know, Yago figure or something like that, but you don't even get to see his side, so it just is a reveal. So it's less occupied with the thought of like, well, you know, he's more of an anti-hero or something like that. We never see a side where we like understand why like he's doing it, other than he's just another cog in the system trying to get this. And like so Hell has this big plan, as is Hypnos, and is trying to get around death, because that's the hierarchical structure of Hell. Hypnos, the god of sleep, realizes that Bridget Fonda has developed a drug that is just like nightmare juice. It's just like it's
the Scarecrow's gas from Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he wants to make sure that this gas gets out and is applied to like as many humans as possible, because they thrive on nightmares in particular. That's what they like at his particular nightclub, I guess. Like, I don't know if they're getting off on it or if it's some form of life force, but they want it. And Monkeybone is just kind of the vessel of like, yeah, he had the idea with Hypnos to like go into the real world and hijack a body in order to hatch this plan. And it seems very slapstick. No one knows what the plan is. Monkeybone almost succeeds, and then the movie ends, you know? So I don't think there's any kind of inspection into like ego or id or those things battling each other. Like, I don't think there's a hidden layer of Monkeybone.
Yes, but
I literally think Monkeybone is about curtailing your, like, I guess, sinful desires in the neoclassical sense.
To win love. The
To
true
win love,
which is
yeah.
pristine.
Right.
That's so facile.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the original ending is slightly better, but not that deeper. I don't know. Or the ending that like Selleck had in mind.
Well, not that much deeper, but it turns it into a dark fable instead of a regular fable, which is just one shade more interesting to me. You're succeeding in like, I was really excited about the movie, and you're succeeding in dialing me down if that was your goal. But but I think we should shift gears and talk about, because really, regardless of how simple it is or was intended to be or ended up being, it's really an excuse to also showcase virtuosic, like actual artistic ability and the craftsmanship of departments that don't usually get to shine on a film set as much. So I want to like, can we talk a little about like favorite the way stuff looks? Because we haven't even talked about
absolutely.
the
We haven't
animation
talked about
and shit.
Catgirl, Miss Kitty, hello.
That was awesome. Are you going to talk about the alleyway scene?
No, go ahead. I don't want to move on.
Well, I was just like, when they just throw in there at the end, like of our arc, the last time we see Rose McGowan, she is feasting on like one of the mouse guards, and she looks horrified. Like the blood coming down her face, and her eyes have like the cat like glint catching the light kind of thing as she's looking on Monkeybone. And you're supposed to believe this is like, oh yeah, we got friends in hell that are gonna help Stu, but it's this horrifying image. It's kind of perfect, kind of with as you mentioned before, there's a lot of influence with Mark Ryden in this, where it's this kind of surrealist nightmare. Who,
by the way, Abe, I don't know if you ever knew this, but I looked it up. There was a point where I was into Mark Ryden to a freaky degree. But did you know you lived like 6 blocks from him in Eagle Rock?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. But yeah, so you just made me realize, which I hadn't thought of it this way before, that Henry Selick does seem to shape his artistic vision around people he finds. Like Tim Burton in the case of Nightmare, Roald Dahl's actual illustrations in the case of James, Mark Ryden for this, and then Coraline is the I forget Dave McKean, I forget, whoever draws Sandman, or like, there's particular he seems to embody different artists and try and like give his movie that vibe visually.
Right.
And maybe that's why I love this one so much, because Mark Ryden is just friggin' dope. Like, my favorite is the bull. I don't know how they did that bull head. I feel like CG must have been involved, but
I believe that's Doug Jones, right? Doug Jones plays the Yeti.
And they hard cut to him and he goes, "Oh, by the way, I'm bull." It's like a good editing joke combined with an amazing effect you so rarely see. I love that the city is like a hand unfolding made of railroad tracks. It's,
as Eni Selick, it's highly imaginative.
Yeah.
He's so good at that.
And he's good at finding excuse. Like, he goes, there's this hell world, and there's going to be dream sequences and nightmare sequences, like the undulating golf course.
Oh, right.
There are just, there's like frames from this that I'll never forget, sinking into the bed for the coma sequence.
Oh, the sinking in the bed is fantastic.
Yeah.
And
I'm still trying to figure out how they did it. I know how they did it, but like, it's such a plan.
How did they do it?
But how did they really do it?
But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, they must have had like a set wide sheet.
Yeah,
like, they must have
that sheet's so big.
Had like just an enormous sheet. That's all.
Yeah.
And that impresses me.
That impresses me. It just like that's hard to work with. I don't know if you've ever worked with any special effects whatsoever. They break down. They often do the thing opposite of what you want to do. And it just seems like they really have it down to a fine system. The animation itself is, I think, some of the best stop motion animation of this era, hands down.
Yeah, although there's some matting problems where Monkeybone looks washed out compared to the environment around him. You notice that?
That's kind of a common problem with a lot of go motion,
like compositing.
Especially. Do you guys know the difference between just like, you know,
stop
vanilla
motion and go motion? No, I don't.
Okay, so go motion is more of like, if you're interested, go motion is kind of just like a technique that you use for stop motion animation. So stop motion animation, the idea is that you have a photo camera, and every frame you just take a shot. You know, and so you adjust and move that in real space. I think that's not a foreign concept to a lot of people. So the only difference between go motion and stop motion is that they realize that when you do stop motion, everything's very clear because every shot is in focus and there's no motion blur. And that's just not how things look like in real exposures on, 24 frames a second or whatnot. So kind of developed by Phil Tippett, my man from Industrial Light and Magic. You probably acknowledge that name from the meme. He's the dinosaur supervisor on Jurassic Park, but he's also he's a godfather of animation. Like, he's just so talented, and he invented this like really simple technique. When someone says go motion, really what they mean is that he was trying to find a way that some of the shots, when your subject is in motion, how can we manufacture motion blur? And the way that they figured that out is that there's a few techniques, but the big one being just kind of hit the doll. You just kind of like flick it and then take a photo of it kind of in motion and like make sure that like in the camera it kind of is blurred. Or they would put jelly or petroleum or Vaseline on parts of the background to show like the camera moving and stuff like that. So it's more of a very focused and technique,
extra try hard version.
Yes. And so it's why stop motion, when you watch it in its earlier days, you get like I forget the name of the movie, but like the one with the dinosaurs.
Well, like everything's always in focus. Every layer is in focus.
Yeah.
Right.
And this one is just a lot of motion blur, a lot of it does a lot of think about how animated and quick Monkeybone is.
He looks fluid,
and then you realize that every photo of Monkeybone in the movie, tens of thousands of photos, had to be like perfected. And one of the things that went in their brain is, well, he's always in motion and he shouldn't be perfectly still when we take the photo. And so they had to simulate it, and that's just a lot of work. So when I say like this stands out as like one of the best stop motion, because there's some stop motion that is more perfect when we look back at it, but this is a main character. This is not animated like, in the way that Roger Rabbit was, where they could control motion blur by just easily blurring it. It's before the days of Photoshop, really, on this level. So it's not like you can just add motion blur onto your images that you already got that were, crystal clear. They're manufacturing all of this, the shutter of the lens beat by beat. And that means that's such an insurmountable task. And they did it. They fucking did it. So I just wanted to point that out. I think that's awesome.
Imagine the feeling of trying that hard and this is the reception the movie gets.
Oh, man.
It's like somehow worse than just filming human bodies moving around.
Yeah.
Yep.
Although I'll shout out, I just can't stop thinking about, I feel like the time for this idea is ripe to come back like as an Amazon original streaming action series, like Jack Ryan vibes. But so Abe and I put together a pitch for this show where basically the government in a secret program is able to bring Looney Tunes into the real world and conscripts them to like kill terrorists overseas because they can't be killed by anything because of cartoon physics.
And that's what the government would do if they,
and
we could.
We love superheroes. I just want to see like Bugs Bunny, Jack Ryan mashup streaming series. That's one of the takeaways I had from Monkeybone.
Bugs Bunny, CIA analyst.
Well, it is interesting.
No, he's in the field killing people. Go ahead.
With carrot guns. I wonder, like, because of how much creativity is like jam-packed into this movie, like, at least for, does it redeem the movie? Like, does it need to be a great film because it is so like visually interesting? Like, I guess that's my artistic question,
I don't think that's a question that needs to, great question. I don't think it's a question that needs to be asked as much as like personally. Like, I don't think that culturally has relevance.
Right.
I think if you enjoy the movie, enjoy the movie. I think that's the one thing that people get wrong about movies all the time is that it's got to be something. It's got to mean something, like culturally. No, just enjoy the fucking movie. If that's what you're really into, if special effects are your bag and that's all you care about, you don't care about story, that's the beauty of movies, right? That's my opinion.
But I do appreciate a movie like Monkeybone where departments are raised to the spotlight that are usually just like part of building a fabric of transparency. This time they're like, no. Look at the makeup. The makeup is like half of the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that dialogue so much though, because it's just like, I don't know, like filmmakers think about things in terms of tools all the time. Like my old film professor would say, like when you're making a film, you're walking into a house like an architect. You have to see all the floorboards. You have to see all the, like you have to see all where the studs are, like, and I think that's true. I think as viewers, we're kind of that too. But the system, the criterion that you're using is just whatever your interest is, right? So I don't know. I think it's fascinating because it says so much about whomever you're talking to and whatever their opinion is about what they're intrigued by, how they developed, what they find is like the crux of imagination, like when they were a kid and they were like watching a movie and they were like, this is my jam for the first time. It's like, what is that? Because that thing is the thing that you never let go of. I don't know. It's like, this is a very emotional kind of conversation for me because I love movies so much. But like, you're absolutely right to like ask that question. I don't think that this kind of movie that is so craftsman based and not as story based, like that's not what the story of Monkeybone, that's what a tale. No one really talks like that, but I think that like we don't give enough credit to the craftsman, like Academy Awards never think about it. Like they do. They give an award to, all the departments. I'm not saying that. It's just that it's like it's seen as one of the lesser things. Right. But there's people who are like, I don't care about the faces as much. I care about the camera. I care about the, the sound design.
I also think I'm coming back around. I think you're underrepresenting the goodness of the story. Now you've gone too far, sir. I'm mad. Like, I don't know. There's just stuff like there's stuff that really
Maggie
works
will
on the story
referee.
level to me. The coma shot we were talking about that we love so much comes at exactly the 10-minute mark to the frame, which is just a cool little thing because it's when you go from the normal world to the crazy world, which is the definition of like the hero's journey standardly. But even more than that, something we haven't touched on, the idea that Brendan Fraser created Monkeybone by drawing with his left hand, and he's right-handed, and with his right hand he draws like Mark Ryden, and I actually think that's a pretty subtly brilliant metaphor for tying the whole film together. The idea that that you're doing a movie that is going to feature composite live action and animation, and it's about the clash between art and process, and it features a character who lives in a different, like, becomes a completely different person depending on, like, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing kind of thing. I just think there's more dots there to connect than we give Monkeybone credit for having, because it doesn't connect them, but the dots are there.
Maggie, you got any thoughts?
I mean,
Thoughts on dots?
Thoughts on dots? I agree. Well, in a way, this movie reminds me of the conversation that surrounds Speed Racer. You know, the Wachowski sister movie. Ah, man.
Yeah.
But in a similar way, in that they created the film as a way to kind of go against the studio who wanted them, you know, just to make like a Speed Racer movie. And they purposely made it like, disconnected. They were inspired by Dadaism. So it's very like a disconnected visual film that also tanked. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I love when artists make those big swings, and I guess I would say this is a big swing for Selleck personally, and I think he took it as a big swing after doing the 2 studio films. So yeah, but in the same way,
the story has more like. Do you think that because I agree, I think we all agree with what you just said.
I love that when you were talking about the car movie, you mentioned tanks, and when you were talking about the monkey movie, you mentioned swinging.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's true. But I want to know, like, what do you think about the story? Do you think it's like a valuable story? Do you think it's like does it have dots that connect in the way that Swaim's, offering?
I mean, there are things like having Hypnos and like Death be like huge characters in your movie is like I don't really know what that does specifically for plot, other than like, let's have an excuse to make them look really cool, which is, valid in itself. But
Hell kind of looks like the central bureaucracy from Futurama, I noticed this time. But yeah, there's a bunch of extraneous shit. I won't disagree with that or push back against that.
Right. I mean, I like it every time I watch it. I never watch it and I'm like, oh man, I wasted my time. Like, and that includes the story itself. And that central idea of a creator, and they're created, the Frankenstein and the Frankenstein's monster, like that's also so classic that I think like this movie is kind of just another version of that, for good and for ill, because it feels like a story that at the end of the day, makes sense. And, I guess. You're
right, Maggie. Yeah. Monkeybone is a modern Prometheus tale.
Thank you.
Of the highest sophistication.
Of the highest degree. Well, it's funny because it's like that, but then, yeah.
So
look, dude, you just covered The Mask, okay? Monkeybone's better than The Mask.
I discussed the color theory in The Mask, sir. So Monkeybone is PG-13, and I think that's where it should be. But this movie also had not a controversy, but a mini discussion when it came out about the guidelines and how we structure, the MPA does the rating system, because Henry Selick was like, I have a 9-year-old boy, I would bring him to Monkeybone. I have no problem with it. And so it kind of opened up the gates of subjectivity for like how much should parent control what their children see and at what age. And so, because that's like kind of unheard of. You're not supposed to talk shit on the MPAA because they like that's just not typically done by studio directors if you're in a studio directing, faculty kind of situation.
Because they can cut your box office with a letter.
Because then they'll remember. The MPAA remembers. But it's like a lot of people were like, okay. And they pointed out at very specific things that I was like, watching this because I hadn't seen it for, like since probably college or whatnot, and I wasn't really thinking about this. But this time I noticed there's a scene when he arrives in hell. When he arrives it's this little they have a little placard that says emotional baggage, and there's just a bunch of like, I don't know, just small creatures that are around him, and one of them starts humping his leg, right? And
Roadkill humps his leg. Yeah,
Roadkill. I don't. Why would you know that name? But
no, it's not his name. I'm saying it's like a possum with a tire track through it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And I'm sure that Henry Selick is arguing that like he's drooling or something like that, but it's pretty clearly this little roadkill is flinging cum. Like just watch it. It's like, and he like kicks him off. Like he kicks him off to oblivion, Brendan Fraser. And
I agree that a 9-year-old has probably seen a dog hump a leg before, and it's not going to traumatize them.
But like coming though,
like I'm coming, Michael. You're such a fucking nerd. Do you hear yourself?
You know what?
Yes, Abe, coming. The kids need to see it.
So
they
like,
need to know.
I'm not here to police anybody. I'm not here to tip or gore this shit. I don't want to be like, I just don't know. Like, I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on.
It
like,
feels dirty. It feels pretty raunchy.
Yeah, there's parts of this movie that feel gross. Especially, I mean, being a woman watching it, it's pretty like, blah.
Unwanted kissing and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that regard, like, almost part of me wishes that it was almost like more in that direction, if that makes sense. Like, I felt like,
you think it should be a hard R?
or I felt like they should have felt the freedom to go that way. Like, it felt like they kind of wanted that, but then suddenly we're like, what about the kids? And it's like, well, how much do we care about the kids?
Well, it was marketed to kids. That's
right.
The thing.
That's a big mistake.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah,
I think this is one of those blind spots that corporate, like just the strategies of like 20th Century Fox at all. They kind of say like, yeah, we want a raunchy kind of thing. It should be like cool for teenagers, But at the same time, they're like, but let's not make it an R.
All right. I know if you're a longtime fan, you may have heard this story because I've told it once before on mic, but I'm going to tell it again because I'm sure most people haven't. But I got to tell the Dick Machine story, which I'm sure Abe remembers. At Cracked, we got to work with Pepsi. We worked with Pepsi for money, and so that our bosses could have their money. And they said, hey, pitch a bunch of sketches. And we pitched 5 sketches, and they ranged from very kid-friendly to a sketch that was called Dick Machine. And they picked the sketch Dick Machine. The premise being me and Daniel O'Brien have a like a kid's lemonade stand on the street, but we're in lab coats and it says Dick Machine. And I don't even remember the premise, but
like what the machine
that's the one they picked. And we wrote a script and we turned it in, and they're like, this is filth. We can't associate the Pepsi brand with a dick machine. And we're like, we know. What is going on over here at Pepsi?
Yeah.
Like, why did you pick
Who's
it? I don't
driving
understand.
Pepsi?
Yeah. There is a lot of disconnect because these corporations are huge. And I think packaging is a real thing to talk about. Like, case in point, another thing we can be thankful to Monkeybone for. The Cartoon Network executives credit Monkeybone with their decision to start the Adult Swim block of programming. So I'm like, yeah, fucking win for Monkeybone. Because
cool.
They aired Monkeybone, and so many parents wrote in and were like, my kid watched Monkeybone on your channel and I hate you now. And they were like, and they started talking about needing a legitimate place to show adults animated style content. So yeah, Monkeybone gave us Adult Swim as well.
That's awesome.
Wow.
See, I love how my other favorite thing about this is how this conversation was had 20 years ago. And it's still, like as we're entering the 20th anniversary of Monkeybone.
Of course. The national holiday. God bless.
Yeah, well, actually, we've passed it because it came out in February. But yeah, as we 20 years later, you mentioned Amazon user reviews earlier. That was by design. I love to read Amazon user reviews for almost every movie that I watch because I find it fascinating. The more, the better. Like when they have like 600 of them, I won't read all of them, but I will just randomize and read. And there's some beautiful ones in this one because that's what occupies most of the review section is this conversation. A lot of people talking about if kids should be allowed. And I thought that as we go, like as society ages, these lines become a little more blurred and usually err on the side of like, kids it's fine. We're becoming less draconian, so to speak, about this kind of stuff. But people are still having this issue. One of the ones that I really love is that someone was really, really had were up in arms because they were like, the idea of a kid getting an erection over his teacher's arm fat is too inappropriate to mention.
They said mentioning it, like describing it exactly.
Yeah, exactly. My God, I'm glad they weren't my parent is all I can say. Another one, though, I love is kind of what you mentioned, just because I think we should have an Amazon user reviews in all of our shows now. It's titled, "This Tickled My Funny Monkeybone." Sorry, I screwed that up. But I just love that title. This is a great movie with all caps, dark overtone. It was very much like Beetlejuice in terms of its daring plot. I love the scenes where the one corpse is throwing body parts. I just love, so this is a very polarizing movie. I don't think that there's an answer, but I think we can all enjoy a Monkeybone at our age. That's for sure.
All right.
Wow.
Calm down. What does he say about his own? It's like putting a hat on the Washington Monument. Pretty fully yourself description of your own dick as a child.
Right.
It's like calling your shot in a lot of ways.
Right.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to, and I don't usually do this. That's self-explanatory. So is this. Why are you still going on? I wanted to recommend three things. Yeah, three things. Because I feel art like Monkeybone is right up my alley. There's so little art like it. It's so precious. And I mean weird, dark stuff. So stuff that's weird and dark, it makes me feel uncomfortable. I got to recommend to the other freaks out there the point-and-click adventure game 9: The Last Resort. Really obscure game. Probably all you can do now is watch a playthrough on YouTube. I doubt you could find a copy, maybe on eBay, but I doubt you have a computer that would run it. But it's a video game based on the artwork of Mark Ryden, and it stars Robert De Niro, Jim Belushi, and Aerosmith. It's very weird. There's a movie that I'm dying to show Abe someday that's animated entirely with tissue paper cut out, and it's called Twice Upon a Time. It is also about evil creatures who feed on nightmares, and it stars the guy who's the voice of Garfield from the animated series. So he does the exact same voice, so it's as if Garfield is doing it. And then last but not least, there's a webcomic y'all can check out right now called Rice Boy that Monkeybone reminds me of. That's beautiful.
Rice Boy is very good.
Yeah.
Big fan of Rice Boy.
That's all I got.
Yeah. Maggie, any thoughts about Monkeybone?
If you could tie it to monkey stuff, that would be the best.
Yeah. Tie it to monkey stuff. Yeah, let's see. It was a banana of a time.
All right, let's split.
Yeah. Woo. No, I'll just echo that. Yeah, I feel myself appreciating any movie that it feels like a one of a kind. Like we said earlier, for better for worse, it didn't make any money, and there isn't a revival of Monkeybone love. But it is so odd, and there are so many moments of it. Like, you know, the the Odenkirk stuff is so just genuinely some of the funniest stuff. Yeah, those are my closing thoughts. I'll always appreciate a movie that feels unique, even with its bag of flaws.
Let's get a Monkeybone going. Let's see if we can be the spark to ignite the revolution. You know, get this cult status going on Monkeybone.
Get the monkey ball rolling. All right.
Yeah, I want Monkeybone in the top 10 on Netflix next week, or after this drops at least. For God's sake, it's Maggie Mae Monkey Movie Month Madness.
For God's sake.
For God's sake. Maggie, let's do a little plug. Let's plug what you're working on.
Great. Well, you know, if you're listening to this lovely podcast, you can also listen to Adam and Mae's podcast. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Which is a podcast where Adam and I show each other, you know, movies that fit a certain criteria. So it's fun. We're genuinely good friends. You should listen to it. And then you can also find me on Twitter and on YouTube, where I have film analysis videos just at my name. Yeah.
That Walter Murch one.
Oh yeah. We just put out a video with
one you just came out with.
Walter Murch. And then also I have a full interview with Walter Murch that we're putting out sometime also during this month of May. So
it truly is Maggie's May.
It's Maggie's May. Ooh-ee-ah-ah.
That is fantastic. You do amazing stuff. I love film criticism, so I'm always first to view those. I find those fantastic reviewer and analysis. What should we tell people what our next, because we're in a circumstance that we're rarely in Frame Rate, which is that we know what the next movie is. Should we announce it so that people have some time
to watch it?
Sure, they rarely get to watch ahead. I would say I've asked this in various forums several times on Patreon and Twitter, and I think the bulk of people don't need to watch ahead. But there are some people who are like, man, I wish I knew ahead of time so I could watch it to prep. So what are we watching next time, Maggie?
We are watching the other evil monkey movie, Monkey Shines.
1988's Monkey Shines.
See you then.
Romero. Yeah, we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Monkeybone.
Have a monkey day.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!